Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 11 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. This is the back-to-back of a doubleheader recording session because I didn't record episode 10 in a timely manner. So we're falling a bit behind in the recording, but I did watch all the movies, so we're doing okay. Let's focus on movie number 11. But before we do, let's talk about my friends at Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics has everything you could ever want in the world of comics, gaming, and music and movies. Please give them a shot. See if you can find something that you want at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. I promise you'll have a great experience, and hopefully you'll find something great for yourself. I think that's good. Support them. Support them so they continue supporting me, or just to thank them for supporting me, for supporting this podcast, this ridiculous, nonsensical podcast. Movie number 11. So, yesterday was election day and I was feeling a bit stressed out, and so I said, well, I need to watch a movie, but I also don't want to spend forever on watching it. So I looked at the movies that I had pre-selected, and there was one that was only just over an hour long, which tells me it's not a real movie. But I also thought, that's fine, I'm watching 60 of these sons of bitches. I can go ahead and watch a short movie here and there. I deserve it. I've earned it. So I selected A Christmas Love for its brief running time. And yet, what I found was a insane movie. Just the work of madmen. I can't explain how wild and wacky this movie is, but I'll do my best as we talk about today's movie, A Christmas Love. We open on Christmas decorations while we hear a couple talking about having confidence and believing it will all work out. The woman of the couple ends by saying this: "You need to trust me." Her husband, we then cut to him helping her out of her dress for the evening. This couple is Tina and Jeff. They are our main characters. He says out of nowhere, "I am haunted by my inadequacies." And this is the first sign that this movie is going to have some insane dialogue. So many times this movie is written as if it's a Shakespeare play. Now, I know at the time of Shakespeare's plays that the language he chose wasn't particularly notable, but it only become in retrospect, because it's kind of like at times hard to decipher and it sounds so eloquent and poetic. But in this movie, they keep shoving words into this guy's mouth that sound like he's trying to be like the most just considerate and thoughtful and just hard-thinking man. I don't know how else to describe it. Lines like, "I am haunted by my inadequacies." The wife says, "You sound like you've had a bit too much to drink." Apparently they had just gone to a party. And at the party, turns out that Jeff went crazy. He danced around wearing a wig, he danced on a table, and had on many other embarrassing events. We find out that part of his acting out is because he's upset that some other guy got a promotion that he wanted at work. She promises that they'll get through this rough patch of darkness. And even then, "I promise we'll get through this rough patch of darkness as you told me," or as you put it. Eventually they go to bed with the implication that this sex was assuredly going to happen. The next morning, Tina wakes up by saying, "I needed that." Unfortunately, also wakes up to find that Jeff isn't there. Instead, he left a note saying he was called into the office. She puts on a record and talks to herself while she gets ready. She's trying to psych herself up for improving her business. Tina has a business that is never fully defined within this movie. It's a brand management business. It's called Tina's Boutique Brands, and I don't know what they do for you, but she's talking herself up because this business is struggling, and she's like, "You can do it. You can do this. You have this. This is your dream. You can do this," while she's getting ready for the day. At the office, Jeff's boss tells him he has some very exciting news for him and then asks him to join him in the office. Cut to Jeff yelling, "You're firing me? It's almost Christmas." And this is supposed to be hilarious. And I'm not saying it's not funny because a person lost their job. Same thing happened to me a little over a year ago. I'm saying it's not funny because it's not funny. Like, they set it up like it's a pure blooded, that's a dangerous phrase, a pure joke, but it's not funny at all. The boss pulls out the employee handbook, which explicitly says that he can be fired at any time for any reason. Then he slides a box of donuts across to Jeff, and Jeff grabs one and then gnashes it with his mouth open while yelling, "This is supposed to be funny." The boss notes that he was trying to be a nice guy about this. He even had accounting throw in the Christmas bonus, which we find out amounts to $35. This is supposed to be funny. Jeff then mimics his dreams flying away and asks his boss to watch them as they fly away. When this is done, when this meeting's done, the boss calls his receptionist and says, "Susie, send in Smith & Wesson, because that's a gun manufacturing company." And he goes, "Yes, both of them. Let's get this over with." And I don't know if the joke here is that they're going to shoot him or if they just thought it would be funny to have a people named after a gun company. Over to Tina. She's bummed because she's not hearing from any potential clients. She pleads to the sky that she needs divine intervention. Just then, she gets a call from some big shot she'd heard of named Maurice Jackson. And this is, again, supposed to be funny. She goes, "Wait, Maurice Jackson? The Maurice Jackson? The Maurice Jackson of say brand equity? The brand equity?" And she just keeps going on like this. Eventually, they decide to have a meeting at 10:30 on Wednesday. After the call, she celebrates and says, "I'm the boss." Cut to Jeff at a bar. He still has donut on his face because it's hilarious, and he gets severely drunk. Finally, he gets home and is very silly, and we all laugh so hard. There's one decoration he keeps fiddling with. It's a little Christmas carousel. He calls it his old friend. Then he falls asleep on the couch. Back to Tina, where she brings up a sermon on the computer where a woman talks about marriages that don't work and how you can improve on it. What I think is interesting is this movie definitely leans into the religious side of, the spiritual side of these Christmas movies. It never overtly goes to it, which I thought was interesting. It just leans there. So she pulls up a woman giving a sermon, talking about like what to do if and maybe it's not an officially religious sermon, but it sure felt like one. What to do if your marriage isn't working, if you feel like you're stuck, do this. But then I thought it was funny that she was like, "Don't rush into divorce," because that seems to be a hallmark of people that are, promoting religion very heavily, is that they want marriages to stay together at all costs. Well, not at all costs. Look, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, the woman says, "Don't rush to divorce. Take a step back. Do I really love this person?" Tina looks at a photo of herself and Jeff and thinks. Cut to Jeff drinking wine in his front yard. He treats yard lights like maracas, laughing all the while. I write in my notes, "I chose this movie for its brevity, and I am paying the price." Cut to Tina getting home from work and finding Jeff passed out on the couch. She says, "Seriously?" The next day, a younger girl and a boy, both of them probably in their older teen years, walk into the house. This is Jeff's daughter, Cody, and her boyfriend. She calls out for her dad, Jeff, or Tina. The young lady, Cody asks why there aren't any groceries in the pantry. And her boyfriend says, "Wait, was I supposed to get them?" And she says, "Look, you've got to start picking up your weight around here. You need to start doing something. I need a responsible partner." And he's kind of like acting like an immature guy, because that's what guys are. They're immature. And I thought it was funny that this movie never gives us any sense of where anything is and who belongs where. So we see this couple, and we're spending like 15 minutes of them in the early part of this movie, understanding they are a couple, they're married, they live in this house. And then suddenly we see two new characters, but they're not introduced alongside any of the characters we already see. They simply walk into a house. They could be home invaders for all we know. Cody tries to encourage her boyfriend, mentioning how he's a great artist and we need to pursue that. We can make money with your art. She then randomly mentions a tarot card reader named Madam Ming. She says, "I investigated her and she's legit. Tons of good reviews online." He says, "Wait, do you really believe that stuff?" And she says, "Yes, I believe we have some control on how things turn out." And I have to say, Cody, that's not what a psychic or tarot card reader does. Like, they don't, you have control over yourself, but the existence of psychic powers doesn't imply one way or the other whether you have control. In fact, it could imply the opposite, where if they can see the future, your future is being foretold and you don't really have control over it. Regardless, that's a ridiculous thing to say. Then they hear Jeff in the other room talking to himself. "I'm such a failure. Tina's going to be so upset." And this is when we learn that he has yet to tell his wife that he lost his job. Cody goes to check on her dad and finds him drinking wine. She tries to make him feel better about his job, but to no avail. He says, "I don't know what to do," and she gets an idea. "You should talk to Madam Ming." She is hardcore into Madam Ming. She picks him up out of the chair, and they head off to a house where Madam Ming works. We're inside a dark room where Madame Ming sits with a wrap on her head in front of a crystal ball. Madame Ming, why does she have a crystal ball when she's a tarot card reader? I don't know. Madame Ming can tell Jeff is suffering. She shuffles her tarot cards while touting their seriousness. This deck has been imbued with a magic energy and blessed by the sacred covenant of a newbie. She tells Jeff's daughter Cody and her boyfriend to wait outside. She then says, this true spirit of the tarot is with us. And I really liked how she said tarot. She spreads cards out and then asks for cash for payment before she proceeds. Jeff's daughter is still there because she only got up. She didn't actually leave the room when she told them to leave, so she pays the woman and then they leave. Madame Ming asks what causes Jeff so much pain. He explains how he was fired. He'd never been fired before, and he's scared. He doesn't know what to do. She has him choose 3 cards, so he just takes the top 3. And I thought it would be more interesting than the top 3. He continues talking about he's scared his wife is slipping away. Madame Ming says Christmas is a special time and love is in the air. He says he doesn't feel love. He feels lost. She turns over the first card, the Fool. This is your freedom. The Fool is an idealist, floating freely between his dreams, towards his dreams. Don't be afraid, one foot in front of the other, and trust that with the will of the spirit of the season will guide you. The next card is the Tower. This is what you've built, but it's not your job. It's your life, and if you trust in your life, work will come. The third card is the Lovers. They are people in love on this card, unconcerned about the past. There's love all around Jeff. Listen for that love. Feel it. This is when he brings up again that he hasn't told his wife that he's lost his job. And I hadn't really thought about it the first time he mentioned it. But what does she think is happening when she comes home and he's passed out on the couch? Does she think, oh, wow, just a rough day at work, he decided to drink until he passed out? Do they not talk about anything? Madame Ming tells him not to lie and to tell his wife. And then he races off to do just that. We join in progress him telling Tina that he lost his job. She is not happy. We find out he's had 7 jobs over the last few years. And then I think back to just moments ago in this movie when he explained that he'd never been fired before. So what happened with these 7 jobs? Did he quit all of them? That's not the implication. The implication here is that Jeff is a loser. And a loser doesn't necessarily quit. A loser often gets fired in these types of stories. So did the movie not hear what it was saying? Did they just have him say that that's why he's taking this firing so hard because he's never been fired before? Tina says, you promised things would be different. And he says, look, my parents are coming home from the holidays. Can we just wait and talk about all this after Christmas? I want us to be positive while they're here. She says, well, how can I face them in a situation like this? She tells him to go back to Linda, who is apparently his original wife and I believe the mother of Cody. He says, you need to stop throwing my past back in my face. And she tells him to leave her alone. This is a big old fight. He says he wants to make things right. She says, well, I'm making moves too. She tells him, go for a walk. And he hesitates. He goes, no, I told you to go for a walk. He gives a speech about how awful things are, how it's a lousy Christmas, a lousy life, and how he regrets all of it. And then he does walk off. Now over to Cody, Jeff's daughter, and her boyfriend. He suggests, you know what, maybe we should just hit the road. And she's not into that idea. She wants stability. And I think the idea here is that he's being immature, and he just wants to pick up and leave when things aren't going well. Instead, she wants to talk about the future. She wants to work toward them getting their own kind of place. Not their own kind of place, just their own place. Then they hear a noise in their bedroom. The girl checks the nightstand and finds a wooden box in the top drawer, which wasn't there before. She opens it to find some open folded papers and photos. One of them is a Christmas letter from Jeff's grandfather. And the boyfriend says, yo, this letter is ancient. The letter is a letter to Jeff from his granddad, and it generally wishes Jeff a Merry Christmas. But it includes the line, it's always Christmas somewhere in the world. And here it is, my friends, here it is, the truth. It is not always Christmas somewhere in the world. It may always be, like, say, 5 o'clock somewhere. It is not always Christmas somewhere in the world. That is not how calendars work. This is not how time zones work. The letter drones on, and eventually a voiceover takes over from Cody reading the letter. Ultimately, it says, if you ever need a Christmas magic, all you have to do is say the words, I believe in the magic of Christmas and I wish it upon us all. The happiness of the season will be a blessing on your house. And the letter is signed Chris. And I wondered if maybe this was an implication that his grandfather was Santa Claus. Cody is really moved by the letter and says they have to find a way to help her parents. The boyfriend suggests wishing upon a star. She does, and also says that she believes in the magic of Christmas, which I guess was her version of the magic words from that letter. Cut to Jeff having a nice drink of wine. He suddenly looks down and finds the wooden box on the table in front of him. We cut to Tina meeting with Maurice, the guy that was on the phone with her, a potential client. He says he wants to have a partnership with her. He says her portfolio is really impressive. Nobody is doing that kind of thing. That's future work you're doing. And I love the idea here that there's no explanation about what type of work Tina does. But there is the implication that it's so good, so ahead of its time, this guy's calling it future work. He says he could see a day when she ran his West Coast operations. He often has trouble sleeping knowing he doesn't have the right people working for him. She's interested in all of this. He then reaches out and holds her hand, and we suddenly get that he may want more from this meeting than just a new business partner. He describes that they should celebrate after we seal the deal, and he asks to meet with her on Christmas Eve. She's not sure if she can make it because she has to be with her family. And he's like, oh, do you have any plans? She says, you know what, I can make it Christmas Eve afternoon. He then takes her hand and kisses it. He says, I know how to treat a beautiful goddess like yourself. And she's not nearly weirded out enough by this. Cut to Jeff drinking coffee. He has a new voicemail from his mom. She complains that the tickets that he got for them ended up being rerouted through Florida. She says it's typical of the types of mistakes that Jeff makes. He needs to pay attention. How is that low-paying data job of yours coming along? You probably already lost that job too, which is another implication that he loses jobs, aka he is fired from jobs. Also, his mom is unbelievably nasty to him in this voicemail. And when we meet the parents later on, both his mom and his dad, they are unbelievably nasty later on. And again, this movie thinks it is hilarious when it is in fact just depressing. Also, this was left as a voicemail. He screams at the phone. You know why I don't answer the phone? Because people keep bothering me. I don't want anyone to bother me. He then puts the phone down and looks at the box that he found earlier. He looks at the photo of his grandfather. And he asks the photo, what have I become? We then cut to him digging through the closet for, yes, that's right, a handgun. Cut to him out walking with the gun. He gets a text from Tina telling him to not drink all of their wine. And this slight criticism from Tina puts him over the edge, or at least he says so. Bad timing, Tina. He walks off and we jump back to his daughter Cody and her boyfriend. He says, I just want to let you know, I found an apartment. We can move the first of the year. Also, my uncle got me a part-time gig. Well, and we can sell our art and keep on rocking. She says, you rock. So instantly, her boyfriend has become mature and responsible and is helping provide in some form or fashion for their little family unit. Back to Jeff, he moans on and on before apologizing to Tina. Tina's not there. He's just talking to the sky. He apologizes to Tina for the nightmare he's become. He pulls out the gun and he says, it's a lonely luxury to be alive. He keeps talking. Where's my Christmas, huh? Where's my Christmas love? Then a man in a pink shirt and brown suit jacket walks out from behind a bush. He heard Jeff ranting and raving. He asked Jeff to put his gun down. Jeff asks who he is. He says, well, I go by many names. We'll never find out who this guy is. Jeff says, this is the end. I lost my job. My wife hates me. I've lost all purpose. There's no reason to live. The man says, well, no, plenty of people love you. Your daughter must love you. The guy says so many things, but not much of it makes any sense or is, it's just like these generic little polite gestures. Basically, Jeff needs to look for a brighter future. He then gestures to the sky. I see your future right up there. We then look at clouds as music plays, and Jeff says, Christmas music? I can hear Christmas music. The man tells him to pray to the music. Listen to the music. Let it warm your heart. Jeff suddenly says, it's going to be okay. The man screams back, it's going to be beautiful. And then the man disappears, and that's the last we'll see of him. Jeff puts the gun away and shouts, I'm coming home. At home, he looks through photos of himself and Tina. Tina, I'm going to get you the best Christmas tree. And walks his daughter and boyfriend. This is when we find out the boyfriend's name is Rock. They notice the box on the table. Apparently, they put it there for their dad to find, or for her dad to find. And he starts talking about remembering hearing stories about his grandfather when he was young. He built the very house that they're in, which seems unlikely because that house looks very modern and not something that his grandfather would have built. Rock says, your grandfather sounds like a good dude. Jeff thinks that maybe he's watching over them. His grandfather really loved Christmas. It meant the world to him. They then ask about a photo in the box of a Christmas tree. And he says, oh yeah, that was in the box. And Cody says, but that wasn't in there when we looked at it. Oh no, magic. He tells the two kids, well not kids, young adults, that he had an overwhelming experience last night. He speaks gibberish about swimming up to a light, but the light was part of the river, and they're all a part of the river, and this is his new revelation. He promises his daughter that he and his wife will get through this okay. Then the two of them give him a gift. It's a check for, quote, a lot of money. They overheard he lost his job and they wanted to help him out. He says, how can you afford this much money? And they said, well, we make money from selling art, and Rock's in a band now, and they don't have a lot of gigs, but they even have a manager, so they're starting to make some money, I guess. Jeff very reluctantly accepts the check. Then they share a three-way hug. Cut to Tina putting on makeup and then talking to her mom on the phone. I know this sounds too good to be true, but this guy's the real deal, she says, talking about Maurice. Her mom says, no, man, you need to stick with Jeff. He's a good person who has taken good care of you. She then basically hangs up on her mom and then finds an envelope from Jeff's daughter on her dresser. It says, Madam Ming awaits. So even Tina's going to go to Madam Ming. We cut to her having a session with Madam Ming. Madam Ming knew she would come, and so did Madam Norma. And then in walks a second woman with the same exact type of outfit. She starts talking to Tina about the joy of her life being at stake. And by that I mean the joy of her life is what is currently endangered by her actions. Then Madame Norma enters into a trance. He is handsome, a real temptation, and you are filled with trepidation. She takes Tina's hand and proclaims this a dire situation. Great forces are conspiring to swallow you alive. Tina knows this must be about Maurice. Then she pulls a card from the deck. It's the Lovers. The fate of your life lies by a thread in the wind. Tina admits that she still loves Jeff, but then they talk some more, and she thanks them for their help. She seems to know what she must do now. Cut to Jeff and his daughter and Rock wrapping Christmas presents. They also got a Christmas tree. Rock declares it the best damn Christmas tree he's ever seen. Also, Cody has an idea for what Jeff can get for Tina. Cut to Tina visiting her parents. They make small talk, and then Tina says that she needs their guidance. She says Jeff hasn't gotten her a Christmas present in, quote, so many years. Her dad says this year he might just surprise you. They keep trying to convince her to give Jeff a chance. He says you need to help rebuild his confidence. But she doesn't know how to do that. And then her dad says, quote, man has been beaten down for years by the powers to be. Christmas is the time for healing. It's also a time for the potent energies in the air, and that's when love is really at its strongest, which is nonsense. They think that she should get Jeff something to boost his confidence. Back to Jeff and family, his daughter's idea for his gift for Tina is for him to make her a Christmas card, which I dig. Crafts are fun, so we get a Christmas card making montage. When he's done, he tells Cody that he has to head off on a Christmas mission. Cut to Tina meeting Maurice. He keeps complimenting her, but then seems to cross a line when he calls her baby. She goes, oh, baby? Only my parents and my husband call me baby. And he goes, oh, you're married? And it's like, buddy, she has a wedding ring on. He says, that's no problem, though. I've been in more stickier situations in the past. He then says some cultures think people should spend more intimate time together before finalizing a deal. He then takes his jacket off and walks behind her desk. She says she's not interested, but then there's a knock at the door. It's Jeff. Tina goes to answer. He wants to apologize for everything. He wants to make things right with her. He promises to be a better man, to love her more, to take care of her better, and to lead them to a better place. She says, you know what? It was your help that got me to this point right now with myself and this business. I just wish you had more confidence, and I will help you get there. He then gives her the Christmas card, and says that you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. It goes on from there, a lot of meandering stuff. I can't deal with this. When she's done, she says she loves him. Then Maurice calls out from within the office. Are we doing this deal or what? She goes back to deal with Maurice. He asks Tina to sign the contract. She says she will, but she wants to make sure that this is only going to be a professional relationship. He then tells her to calm down. I apologize, but it's not that serious, which is a weird way to apologize. He then apologizes even more, and eventually she signs the paper. Also at some point, Jeff walked in and was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were having a meeting. And she introduces Jeff as kind of an extra middle finger to Maurice to be like, yeah, see, I am married. Cut to them at home. Tina thanks him again for the card. And then we find out his parents probably won't arrive tonight because of some flight issue. And I'm thinking, it's already nighttime. You probably assume they're not coming at this point. It's Christmas Eve. That's when the meeting was. They hug, and then we get a montage of flashbacks to him being sad throughout the rest of the movie. And then suddenly he's wearing a suit in the living room, and Tina comes downstairs wearing a fancy dress, and they declare their love for one another. Then we get shots of various Christmas bits, like decorated trees and ornaments and decorations of other sorts. And suddenly, we're with Tina and Jeff as they walk back into their own house. And there's a surprise party for Jeff with Tina's parents and Jeff's parents there. His dad yells and yells and yells. And then his mom also insults him, and they're both just complaining about their travel and blaming it on Jeff. It's very nasty. His mom asks Jeff if they failed with how they raised him because he's such a failure. The rest of the scene is her criticizing him and him complaining about her criticizing him, and then suddenly they're nice to one another. This is really dumb. Then we get some stuff with Tina and her parents. They talk about how they're so happy for her and that she's made the right decision. Her mom refers to Jeff's daughter as your daughter-in-law. That would be Cody. So she says, and your daughter-in-law is so nice. And then Tina has to say, oh, my stepdaughter. And the woman goes, your stepdaughter. And I think this was a case of the actress actually screwing up. And then Tina's actress correcting her in the scene. Because it would make no sense for her mom to call Cody her daughter-in-law. We then get some stuff with Jeff and his daughter Cody. He says she really helped him and he'll never forget it. Then Jeff gets a phone call from his old company. And he goes, my boss was fired. Well, he doesn't say his boss. It's whatever his boss's name. Like, say Murray. Murray was fired. He set me up. You want me to be project leader? And I love the idea that the boss set him up somehow. Like, this job and this work is so important and so lucrative that they set him up for failure. Tina is so happy for him that he's got a new job. Then we get a montage of them, everybody eating dinner, and that's the end of the movie. A Christmas Love is terrible. I could barely find it on IMDb to find out like the different characters' names and the different actors in it and all that stuff. It's so hard to find. It's such a bad movie, but you can of course find it on Tubi, so enjoy that. Enjoy this movie. It's really bad. MVP of the movie, I'm going to go with Cody, the daughter. I think she was pretty good in this, even though she wasn't in it that much. No, I'm going with the Madam sisters, Madam Ming and Madam Norma. They were so weird and out of nowhere. Why are these tarot card readers included in the story? But they were also accurate, like they knew what they were doing. So what does that imply about this world? Anyway, that's episode 11. That's movie number 11 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a good day. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow because that's how this works.